We're going to look at it. So foul there on Indiana, on Hull there, but then that is a technical.
That is a technical. Dead ball contact.
The Indiana Fever just can't catch a break. When you're already down to scraps trying to make the playoffs, the last thing you need is your remaining players getting elbowed in the face while refs seem to shrug it off. That's exactly what happened to Lexi Hull against Minnesota. Kayla McBride catches her with a sharp elbow straight to the jaw. Hull crumples to the floor, clearly in pain, and everyone watching knows they just witnessed something that deserved serious consequences. But McBride walks away with just a technical foul. Fans are left asking, seriously, that's it? But here's the thing that's got everyone talking. This isn't just about one play. This is part of what might be the toughest, most unlucky season any WNBA team has had to deal with. And if you stick with me for the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why the Indiana Fever story this season is honestly hard to believe.
I felt like our depth came into play there. We're going to be at our best when we're in transition, and I felt like in that second quarter we were able to get out a little bit.
I mean, she brings a level of energy that is huge.
Before we get into all this, hit that like button if you think players need better protection on the court, and let me know in the comments. Do you think some teams get treated differently by refs? To understand just how tough that elbow situation really was for the team, you need to see the complete picture of what the Fever walked into that Minnesota game with. We're not talking about a few bumps and bruises here. This is a medical situation that would challenge any team in the league. Caitlin Clark, their star player, their main offensive weapon, their whole system, has been out with a groin injury since July 15th. That's over a month now in a league where every single game counts toward making the playoffs. Losing your best player for that long is like trying to drive a car without an engine, but it gets tougher.
Yeah, I know you're a tough girl. That looked painful.
Yeah.
Oh, Cunningham is down. My goodness.
I did tear my MCL, and if you're going to hurt your knee, that is like the best possible case. And so I think the league as a whole, but really us, we've just gone through so much adversity, and then injury-wise, it's just been like, you can't make this shit up.
Sophie Cunningham, season-ending MCL tear in her right knee. Sydney Colson, season-ending ACL tear. Ari McDonald, season-ending foot fracture. Chloe Bibby, out with knee problems that the team is being careful with, which basically means we can't afford to lose anyone else. That's 4 major players gone for good, plus Clark still out. In a league where rosters are already small, losing that many players is like playing chess when half your pieces are missing. The Fever basically walked into Minnesota with a lineup held together by last-minute signings and hope. Let's talk about what desperation looks like in professional sports.
Nice to see the ball go through the net for her and for her to play with such confidence. She is her own worst critic. He's a perfectionist. He wants everything to go right all the time, and it was nice to see the ball go through the net for her and for her to play with such confidence. But for her to finally feel that and see that. And
Shea Petty had barely finished signing her contract before being asked to play major minutes. Odyssey Sims was dealing with her own injuries, but still had to suit up because there was literally nobody else available. These weren't planned additions to the team. These were desperate moves just to have enough bodies to play. This isn't building a basketball team. This is just trying to survive. And you know what the really tough part is? These replacement players were actually showing up big time. Hull had just put up 23 points in a recent game, way more than she usually has to score because there was simply nobody else to carry that load. Kelsey Mitchell has been putting up huge numbers night after night, dropping 26 and 27 points while being the main focus of every opponent's defense.
But first half, they got some kick-out threes that we can control. Just getting on the glass, box them out. A little bit more effort, a little bit more focus, a little bit more locked in on our schemes. But we're right there. So I think we can head into Sunday's game with a little bit of confidence knowing we can compete against anybody.
Even head coach Stephanie White admitted the physical style they were facing was different than what this shorthanded group could handle. That's coach speak for this is really, really hard. But here's what makes this story actually inspiring. Even while dealing with all these injuries, even while playing with a roster that looked more like a tryout than a professional basketball team, the Fever were still competing. They were still fighting. They were still giving everything they had. And that's exactly when that elbow incident happened. Now, About that elbow to Hull's face, let's break down exactly what happened, because this is where things get really frustrating for Fever fans. McBride goes up for the rebound, Hull is defending, and McBride throws an elbow that catches Hull right in the face. Hull goes down hard, and it's not one of those basketball plays where contact just happens naturally.
Oh, I know what this one is. Ah! Ouch.
That was great. She had a great night, but that was a great moment. That was fun. She definitely was going off, and for me, the best part about playing defense is when you feel like you frustrated somebody.
This looked intentional to a lot of people watching. This was exactly the kind of play that tougher penalties were created to prevent. The replay shows it pretty clearly. McBride winds up, throws the elbow, and Hull drops to the floor, grabbing her face. The commentators and fans expected something more serious than just a technical foul. Some people on social media were calling it way worse than that. After the officials reviewed it, McBride got the technical foul, but many fans felt like that wasn't nearly enough for what they saw. Hull had obvious contact to the face, went down in clear pain, and a lot of people felt the punishment didn't fit what happened. And here's where things get interesting for conspiracy theorists. Fever fans have been tracking what they see as a pattern all season long.
I know I was undersized going against DB, and so trying to just be as active as I could, get my hands on as many balls as I could, and take advantage of that. Caitlin? Yeah. We're done. Oh, Lex.
When a Fever player takes a hard hit, whether it's a push, a body check, or like this, an elbow, the calls don't always seem to go their way. It's starting to look like opponents can play more physical against Indiana without getting the same consequences. Minnesota played a very physical style all night, which isn't against the rules by itself. Lots of teams use that approach. But the problem was that when Indiana tried to match that energy, they seemed to get different treatment from the referees. Drives by Fever players would get swallowed up without fouls being called, but similar contact on the other end would immediately get a whistle.
Are you trying to get me fined again?
I am not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a level of physicality that they're able to play with against her. You know, I knew it as an opponent, and I see it as her coach.
Stephanie White, being the professional coach she is, could only hint at what everyone watching could see, that the game seemed to be called on different standards. She couldn't say it directly because coaches get fined for criticizing officials, but her message was pretty clear. Her team wasn't being treated the same way as their opponents. And the fans definitely see it. Social media lit up after that Hull incident. Fever supporters were sharing videos of what they thought were missed calls, questionable fouls, and what looked like uneven treatment. People were getting really frustrated. This team was already dealing with half their roster being injured, and now they felt like they had to play against both their opponents and inconsistent officiating. That's a tough spot for any team to be in. But here's what happened next that really shows you what this team is made of. Instead of giving up under all this pressure, this Indiana Fever team did something really impressive. They kept fighting harder. Kelsey Mitchell, who was already carrying a huge scoring load, put up 26 points and answered every Minnesota scoring run until she basically had nothing left. She was the main offensive option in a game where every single possession felt crucial. Without her ability to create her own shot, this could have been a really ugly loss, but she wouldn't let that happen. But the real story is Shea Petty. Remember, this is a player who had just arrived in Indiana before being asked to play important minutes against one of the league's best teams. You'd expect someone in her position to be overwhelmed, to play it safe, to try not to make mistakes. Instead, Petty scored 16 points off the bench like she'd been running Indiana's system all year. That's huge production from someone who probably didn't even know all her teammates' names yet. She came in with no chemistry, no rhythm with the team, and still looked like she belonged on that court. Aaliyah Boston, meanwhile, was getting doubled and pushed around all night but never stopped competing. She controlled the paint, grabbed important rebounds, and gave the team the steady presence they needed. Boston didn't need to put up huge scoring numbers to make her impact. Her calm leadership was exactly what a team full of new faces needed to see.
Career high for you tonight. How'd that first half feel, especially with 18 and just 20 minutes of play?
I mean, it obviously feels good, I think, for me, just playing with confidence. we're missing people. So everyone's got to do a little bit extra, be a little bit more aggressive offensively. So that was my mindset going in.
And let's not forget what Hull had done in that recent game against the Lynx. 23 points from a player who isn't normally asked to be a primary scorer. That's not just good basketball. That's someone stepping up when their team desperately needs it. When your back is against the wall and you need every player to do more than usual, Hull delivered. This is what real toughness looks like. This is what separates professional athletes from everyone else. When everything is working against you, when the situation seems impossible, when even the referees seem to be making things harder, you find a way to compete anyway. But as inspiring as this fight was, everyone knew there was one person who could really change everything, and recently cameras caught something that got every Fever fan excited. There she was, Caitlin Clark on a basketball court, moving with her teammates for the first time in over a month. The footage was captured by fans during shoot-around before that Minnesota game, but it might as well have been headline news because every single detail was being studied by Fever supporters. Her movement, her shooting form, how she looked running, everything was being examined because fans knew what this could mean. This wasn't just another injured player going through rehab. This was potentially the difference between making the playoffs and going home early. This was the player who could turn a team held together by emergency contracts into a real playoff threat. What people don't always realize about Clark isn't just that she scores points, it's that she makes everyone else better. She's the person who controls the pace of the game. When she's on the court, Boston gets easier shots. Mitchell doesn't have to force as many difficult attempts. The whole offense flows because there's someone who can see the game developing before it happens. Without Clark, every play feels disconnected. It's like watching puzzle pieces that don't quite fit together. The effort is there, the talent is there, but the person who makes everything work together is missing.
I'm not exactly sure why, but it just is what it is. And we've got to help her learn to adjust and use it against them in certain ways.
And the numbers are getting really important. The Fever are 19-18 after recent games, sitting in 8th place, but only one game ahead of the 9th place Los Angeles Sparks for that final playoff spot. With just a few games left in the regular season, every single game feels like a must-win. The schedule coming up isn't easy either. They're facing some of the league's best teams. Minnesota again, plus other playoff contenders. These aren't going to be easy games against teams that are already eliminated. That's why seeing Clark in that shoot-around footage felt so important. Coach Stephanie White had been saying she hoped Clark would return before the regular season ended, and that when fans saw her working with the team, they'd know she was getting close. Well, fans saw it, and now everyone's waiting to see what happens next. Can one player really save a season that's been defined by injuries and tough breaks? Can Clark come back to form quickly enough to help this makeshift roster make the playoffs? And most importantly, can the Fever overcome not just their opponents, but what some fans see as inconsistent treatment from officials? The next few games will answer those questions, but here's what we already know. This Indiana Fever team has shown more heart and fighting spirit than anyone expected. They've dealt with everything the season could throw at them and kept competing. Whether that's enough to make the playoffs remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, this story isn't over yet. What do you think? Have the referees been calling games fairly for Indiana, or is there something to what the fans are seeing? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed because this playoff race is about to get really interesting. The Fever season has been a lesson in dealing with tough situations, and whether they make the playoffs or not, they've already shown what it means to never give up. Sometimes the most important wins happen long before the final score is decided. And who knows, maybe the best parts of this incredible season are still coming.